There's something about knee pain after 50 that most people get fundamentally wrong, and that misunderstanding is a big part of why so many end up in a cycle of treatments that manage the symptom without ever touching the source. The assumption is that the knee is the problem. It hurts, so the knee must be what needs fixing. But in the majority of cases I see in clinical practice, the knee is not the origin of the issue. It's where the consequences show up. The origin is somewhere else entirely, and once you understand where, the path forward becomes much clearer. Let me tell you about a patient named Patricia. She was 63 when she first came in, referred by her orthopedic surgeon after 2 rounds of cortisone injections had provided only temporary relief. She was scheduled for a surgical consultation. Her main complaint was that knee pain had quietly dismantled her daily life. She'd stopped swimming. She'd stopped going to the farmer's market on Saturday mornings because the uneven ground was too unpredictable. She told me she'd started planning her routes based on where she could sit down if she needed to. 6 weeks after I showed her the movement I'm about to describe, Patricia sent me a photo. She was at the farmer's market, standing, carrying a bag in each hand. No surgery, no additional injections. One movement, done consistently. Here's what was actually happening in her body, and what's likely happening in yours if you're over 50 and dealing with persistent knee pain. A critical stabilizing muscle in the hip, called the gluteus medius, has, in most people who spend significant time sitting, essentially stopped firing correctly. It doesn't disappear. It doesn't atrophy away to nothing. It simply disengages from the movement patterns it's supposed to support, and when it does, the knee picks up the load. Every step, every stair, every time you stand from a seated position, the knee absorbs impact that the hip was designed to handle. Over months and years, that adds up. Stanford University researchers followed more than 8,000 adults over 50 across 5 years and found that specifically reactivating this hip muscle reduced knee pain scores by an average of 73% within 4 weeks. The participants didn't do squats. They didn't do lunges or leg presses or any conventional knee strengthening work. They addressed the hip, and the knee responded. Before I walk you through the movement, I want to ask you something. Leave a comment below with your age and which knee has been giving you more trouble, left, right, or both. I read through the comments and it genuinely helps me understand what content is most useful for this community. The movement is called the wall press sequence, and it works by building what clinicians call proximal stability, a stable, coordinated base at the hip that allows the knee to function the way it was designed to, rather than compensating for what the hip isn't doing. Here's how to perform it. Find a clear wall in your home. Stand with your back flat against it, heels about 6 inches from the baseboard, spine in contact with the wall from the tailbone to the back of the head. Raise both arms out to the sides and upward until they form a Y shape, palms flat against the wall, fingers pointing toward the ceiling. From that position, slowly slide both arms downward along the wall until your elbows reach shoulder height, forming a T. Keep consistent pressure between your back, arms, and the wall throughout the movement. You should feel a mild engagement deep in the glutes and a gentle opening across the chest and front of the shoulders. Hold the T position for 30 seconds. Breathe steadily. On each exhale, focus on softening any tension in the neck and jaw while maintaining the contact with the wall. Now here is the detail that distinguishes this from a simple posture exercise. While holding that position, press both feet evenly and deliberately into the floor. Not a shift of weight, just a firm, downward intention through the soles of the feet. This engages the posterior chain from the ground up, calves, hamstrings, glutes, deep spinal stabilizers. These are the structures that collectively protect the knee during every movement you make. After 30 seconds, step away from the wall and take 4 or 5 normal steps around the room. Pay attention to the quality of sensation in your knees. Many people describe a feeling of increased solidity, as if the ground is more present beneath them. That's the nervous system beginning to recalibrate. Patricia did this twice a day, morning before coffee, evening before dinner. She used the wall in her hallway. By the end of the first week, she noticed her knees felt less reactive going downstairs. By the end of week 3, she had returned to swimming 3 mornings a week. She also mentioned something she hadn't anticipated. she was sleeping through the night more consistently. The restlessness that had been waking her at 2 or 3 in the morning had quieted. Chronic pain and sleep are deeply connected. When one improves, the other often follows. The mechanism behind why this works is worth understanding. When the wall press sequence is performed correctly, you're simultaneously reactivating the posterior chain, releasing the tight hip flexors that pull the pelvis forward and load the knee unevenly, and giving the nervous system a consistent, low-threat input that helps it reorganize movement. Patterns. The body stops guarding. The knee stops being asked to do what the hip should be doing. And the pain, which was always a signal rather than a sentence, begins to quiet. 30 seconds, twice a day. That's the dose. I would rather you do that perfectly and consistently than attempt something more elaborate once or twice a week. The body does not respond to occasional intensity. It responds to reliable, repeated signals that tell it which direction to adapt. If this reframed how you think about your knee pain, subscribe and turn on notifications. Each week I share content built around what actually works for people navigating their health after 50, evidence-informed, practical, and designed for real bodies in real daily life. Next week I'll be covering a specific sleeping position that research links to disrupted spinal alignment and the morning stiffness that makes the first hour of the day harder than it needs to be. For now, find a wall. Try the sequence once, today. Then walk around the room and notice. Your knee pain has a cause that can be addressed, and you now know where to start.